and we're trying to do good for our communities.
That's wonderful. And so what are your plans? You shifted production. What percentage of your production did you shift, and how do you do it, and what do you produce now?
I'll let Alex and Greg and Keener speak to that. If you guys would take turns on that, that'd be great.
So at Old Dominic, we actually have stopped whiskey production for the time being, just from a staffing perspective. A lot of my staff have kids, so they need to stay home since they're not allowed to go to school anymore. We are trying to bottle some of our products still, but we just, because bars and restaurants are closing, we don't need to bottle as much as we thought. So we are shifting to just as much hand sanitizer as we can based on the raw material we're able to procure.
We're going to need extra more when this kind of lifts. At some point, you know, the worst case scenario is not till August. The best case scenario is about 2 weeks. So let's say someplace between the beginnings of April, right around Easter, Passover time, and the end of the summer, which would be probably the worst scenario. But whenever it lifts, we're going to need to literally wipe down the country. And so as much as you can produce, the better it is. That means every school is going to have to be wiped down. Every university, every sporting place, any place where there's any metal other than copper. Copper doesn't seem to hold germs very well, which is good. But plastic does, and we've substituted a lot of plastic now for other types of metal. Everything's going to have to be wiped down. As long as you're producing 60% alcohol, it'll work. So it does have to have a 60% alcohol ratio. But boy, you should be, you know, seen as a national treasure right now.
You know, I appreciate that. You know, I think that's something that we've gone to Kelly and Kim. It's getting that voice out there, getting that message out there. You know, Kelly, I heard you say something about the president acknowledging it or tweeting it or something. We need to continue to do that, because there are some caveats to this. Is we can produce this stuff, but you got to remember we're still held to some of our standards, and they've suspended some of them. But we're paying far greater taxes on this cleaning solution than other people are. You know, yeah. And so one of the things that I'm charged with, you know, you've got Alex and Greg and Keener, who are, you know,
I think Keener just came on. So
yeah, they'll forget more than I'll ever know about distillation. But you know, the business side of it is that we need the attention, not from, hey, buy our brand, but from, hey, don't forget about us. You know, we're doing this, we're pivoting, you know, and we're still held to some different standards there, especially when it comes to even the recipe to the taxes paid. So we're hoping things like this, these conversations and press releases and any information or any people, you know, that you can pass along, yeah. We're in it to the long haul. We want to be on the flip side of this, you know.
Have you started indicating medical schools are still going on, and doctors are obviously going to have a very important part in where the national dialogue goes. They're going on basically online right now. There are very few people actually in class. It's mainly like what we're doing here on Zoom. I'm teaching on Zoom. But most medical schools have no idea about what you guys are doing. And if the medical profession knows, somehow they're taken more seriously than some other professions. You know, so it says we're distilleries, one thing, but if the medical people start saying, hey, these people really have something to offer, and this is a health issue, that kind of puts you on a higher level. And so maybe one of the things you need to do, I could even help you on this, is really connect with the entire with the AMA and the medical profession to let them know the product that you have. Because most doctors are going to see this as really a valuable type of thing. It's not just cleaning your hands. I mean, to be quite honest, the best thing for washing your hands is good soap and water. What really needs to be done is the country needs to be wiped down. I don't know how else to say that. In other words, we cannot soap and water the entire United States, and it won't work on a lot of things. But we can. That's where your product is really valuable from a health standpoint, and that is anything that has metal or plastic eventually will need to be washed down from top to bottom.
I mean,
And
but
I'm
now
talking, that's talking a lot of stuff. I mean, we'd have to have you guys going 26 hours a day, 10 days a week.
Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah, I get it.
from the production part, you said you shifted completely to you shifted your production completely. So how much can you produce? I mean, when I talked to the guy yesterday here from Hawaii, he's giving his product away to first responders. So he started with first responders. So he's going, actually, instead of delivering whiskey, his people are going around delivering to fire departments. And that's the start, that's just locally here in Hawaii. You seem to be a lot bigger. You seem to have a lot more resources. So what are your plans for distribution?
For Old Dominic, our first goal is to give it to the county. We were approached by the County Health Commission.
Right.
Try and supply 10,000 small bottles so they can go to the lower income communities in Memphis as well as to the homeless.
Right.
So that's our first target. We've been able to acquire enough raw material to do that. We're still sourcing the bottles for that.
Okay.
That's also difficult. And then after that, it just really depends. I know FedEx would like to see us produce some for them, but I'm making them find the resources first.
And FedEx is based in Tennessee, right?
It's the hub is in
Memphis. Yes, I remember that. And are you selling it, or you're giving it away, or
giving it away? We're basically, if we're able to do this for FedEx, they're going to pay for all the raw materials.
Of course.
And then for the county, they're essentially going to reimburse us for the raw materials as well.
And since you are an organization altogether, right, in Tennessee, of different competitors and the tourism board coming together doing this, are you seeing this as a national trend, or are you helping to expand these ideas to others in other states or in other jurisdictions?
I would like to, I guess the only metric I have to be able to answer that is social media. And I'll say this, I feel like Tennessee and our distilleries were one of the first. I'm not saying we were the first, but I can tell you we were some of the first. And I know we were probably the first to get some acknowledgement from it, doing it. And I think that's just a testament to who we are as a state. It's kind of, heck, it's our mantra, the volunteer state, but,
right.
But that's also just our industry. That's not, it's our industry. We want to help others, and I'm proud of the way our guys have done this, there's going to be a lot of people providing it. Heck, there's a Germex facility, manufacturing facility down in there. It's already in Middle Tennessee. And what they're missing, basically what they're lacking is alcohol,
Right.
So, there's opportunities. There's other industries too that have reached out to us and said, look, we have A, B, C, and D, but we still just need alcohol, So I think across the board, the intention is to provide community help in varying forms, and I think that's something that you just never know what form that's going to be. Right now, it can be just a hand sanitizer, but Keener and Greg have talked a lot about the surface cleaning. That's going to need to be done. So
right.
So we're really, to give specific answers, we don't have the answers right now. We're trying to take action that looks like the right direction, and the right direction is to provide help and give a resource that we can produce. And we can definitely produce some alcohol.
Right. No, that's wonderful. Is there, and your local organization, obviously in Tennessee, is there a national organization also you reach out to, or maybe you could become a model for them to spread the word to other organizations in the country or overseas even?
Well, so we're the Tennessee Distillers Guild, so we represent obviously the distillers in the state, and then we work very closely with DISCUS, which is the Distilled Spirits Council of the U.S.
Right.
And they've had a big push for bringing in guilds or associations collectively in the distilling industry. And so I've been in daily contact with Chris Swanger there. He's the president there. And subsequently he has contacts with, president of the Manufacturing Association, the U.S. Manufacturing Association. So we're trying to spread that word, but it just feels like there's so much news and so much data, or not data, but so much news and so much opinion out there. We're trying to get the message out. This is where we're at. And we need to hear from guys like you. What do you see? I think the gentleman from Texas A&M there, and I apologize, I didn't get to write anybody's name. Peter, right? Yeah, Peter. That insight that you had on, hey, if this goes for 2 more weeks, or if it goes till August, the bottom line, you got to wipe down the world, Yeah. That's something I hadn't really thought of that way, So it's
I think there are really 2 things that have to be thought through. I really appreciate all the good deeds you guys are doing, and I think that's wonderful. On the other hand, you have people producing this stuff, and eventually they're going to have to be paid. Because unfortunately, you can't go to the supermarket with good deeds. You do have to have, at least some money in your pocket. And I know that sounds very practical, but it's a reality. So you can last a while, but you're going to have to come up with some ways. One, we're going to need a lot more than you guys are producing. I mean, you're like in 1 small inch of what has to really be seen. Secondly, that means people have to work and have to be paid. Thirdly, if I were you all, I think it's going to be, because I think like in the tourism profession, and who's the woman in tourism? Who's the person who's a tourism expert here? It was someone. Kim. I would be keeping really careful note about this type of stuff, and eventually turn this into a tourism attraction, where people can learn not only about visiting distilleries, but also how distilleries help to wipe down America. And, wipe up and clean up, the type of situation. But I think you could really, this has some real tourism potential that I don't know if people are thinking about on a creative way, but that could create some economic development, because we have to have more. Our country's going to be facing some very tough economic times for a while, and like it or not, that's a reality. 3 weeks ago, we were sitting on top of the world, and all of a sudden we went, everything kind of, it's like the bottle broke and everything kind of went on the ground. So we're going to have to really build ourselves up. And therefore, getting the economy going again is really going to be very important. 1, you want health, but 2, you need economic health afterwards, because there will be an afterwards. And I think if you guys keep careful notes in what you're doing, this would be a terrific, even a book that would get out. And those are the types of things that put a place on the map economically. So think short term, but also think long term.
I appreciate that. I appreciate your words. It's an interesting, the fact you came straight on with, eventually somebody's going to have to get, people got to start getting paid. It's a balance that we're trying to strike.
Of course,
in our early conversations. But I want to say this: a lot of these places that are reaching out, whether it's fire halls, police departments, county governments, whatever, nobody's asking for giveaway. You see what I'm saying? They're saying, look, we know it's going to cost. Be fair to us and just get us something. So for us, it's a bit of a quandary. I think Greg and I were talking about this, like in Keener, where's the balance? You don't want to, we're definitely not gouging by any means, No, but the flip side is that this stuff still costs. And at the same time, everybody's going home and revenues are short everywhere. There is going to be that point, and we got to strike that balance. And it makes me feel good to know that, somebody not sitting where we're sitting understands and sees that already. That,
there's 2 sides to this. One is that you all have to eat like everybody else. You're human beings. And secondly, people appreciate what they pay for. Now, I'm not talking about gouging. I'm not talking about, I'm talking about being fair and being honest. But good business is when everybody wins. And that's the basis of business. And the business of business is business. So therefore, it's important that people have a sense that I don't want to feel I'm taking advantage of you. I don't want you to gouge me, but I don't, because then I don't appreciate what you do.
Right.
So I think you guys need to, really work on a balance on that. And what you're doing is really the fact that you're willing to turn your distilleries from whiskey to sanitizers. It's already a major, wonderful thing that you're doing. And it's a story that really should be gotten out. Not just on a few newspaper articles. I run a tourism journal called Tourism Tidbits, and I'll be glad to put something to it about it if people want to, like 100 words, not a lot. Certainly, Jürgen he runs a newspaper that's read all over the world. But on top of that, keep notes. Let's turn this in at some point, make it a book, make it a story, make it something that when this is over in 10 years, people are still talking about what you guys did.
Yeah, and I really think, and that's kind of what brought you in, Peter, in this conversation, is yesterday I sent a note to Gloria. I'm sorry, now introduce Gloria is the CEO of the World Travel and Tourism Council. There are two major powers in the global tourism industry. One is the United Nations World Tourism Organization in Madrid, representing the public sector, and the World Travel and Tourism Council represents the private sector. So their members are the 200 largest companies in the world in tourism, like Mr. Marriott, for example, is very active in the organization for many years, American Express, guys like this. And I sent her a note yesterday on WhatsApp. I said, look, and I sent a link actually to this press release. This is something you should maybe learn from, and maybe there could be a global trend, with you guys as a leader or as a pioneer in inspiring also others in the world to do this. Tennessee is an important part, but it's not the world. And I think the world is hungry for ideas everywhere right now. I mean, no matter where you go, we're all facing the same problem, and it's something it could bring the world together. And she has not responded to me yet, but I just thought, if we get an organization like WTTC to endorse this and said, okay, we encourage our members, and these are members also with a lot of money and a lot of pull in the industry, to endorse this and find others, it could get maybe organized on a national, maybe even international platform. And I don't know if I'm off on this, but that's kind of, what came into my mind yesterday.
Okay. Peace through you would be kind of ironic if the distillery industry became one of the key elements for world peace.
It would be awesome.
But actually, I will mention it to Louis Damour. I have a call with him in about an hour. Louis Damour is the head of the Institute for Peace Through Tourism. He's based in New York. I know him for 20, 30 years. He started the organization. And I will mention this to him because all of this is kind of like a puzzle, and it has to come together. And you're paying, and you really started maybe something what's enormously important in this puzzle. And it fits also very well within the tourism industry. So I really applaud you for this, and please keep us informed, and we'd definitely be happy to spread the word and maybe get back to you also with some feedback we're getting from our readers. Now, if there's a message you wanted to get out to readers we have, what is mostly global travel industry professionals, what kind of message would you like to get out?
Wow. Drink more whiskey.
You could have a great play if you remember from Fiddler on the Roof, one of the songs on Fiddler on the Roof's to life, l'chaim, when they're drinking whiskey. So you could be known as the L'chaim Project.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. So drink whiskey and keep the nation alive.
There you go. I like it. I'll tell you, something, a point, I'm not sure if we brought this up or not, but it's interesting. I sit there and I've listened to the summary of Keener and Greg Adam, and which is Sugarlands there, and we each have a different, we all have our own individual business plans, and we obviously have our different equipment, and to watch these guys come together and figure out how they're going to take the strengths of each place, whether it's Greg's bottling line and his, his space, capacity for liquid or what have you. It's been really nice. So, I don't know. We definitely have to find the right voice here and continue to try to be loud about getting it out here. I mean, Kelly, you can speak to, I was pretty adamant and passionate about, I wanted this out as much as possible,
Well, let me ask something. If you guys wanted to, if each of you wanted to send me maybe like 150 words about what each one of you are doing, I could pull that. I'm a good writer, for especially in tourism stuff. I could write that up, turn it into a story. Jurgen could publish it. I could put it into my tourism newsletter, which mainly goes to Convention and Visitors Bureaus, and I could send it to medical schools. And that would help you get things done. And that would be, something practical coming out of this conversation. I'm stuck at home like everybody else. I was a member of our governor's task force for a number of state committees. And it appears that we may in Texas be on lockdown very soon, like New York and California. So most of us have a lot of time at home right now. So if you all, I couldn't do it just from this conversation, but if you all would write maybe 150, 200 words per person, I could meld that, merge it together. I wouldn't do anything without sending it to one of you, so it had your organization's approval. But then I could get that story out there. And if you wanted to send a few pictures or other things, that would be some way of practically speaking to the world. And those are things that can then be sent to Congress, to senators, and maybe put in some of your requests. If we weren't suffering under this type of legislation or had this exemption, we could be doing much more. But if you're not going to toot your own horn a little bit, nobody will toot it for you. So I'm not saying brag. I'm not saying be impossible. But I'm saying tell the truth. And tell the truth is the good stuff you're doing. You don't always have to be overly modest.
Okay.
Yeah, the same from our end. We'd be happy to stay on the story, and we can do that. So whenever you have something what is developing, anything you need, we're talking about bottles and resources. So sometimes, you never know who reads what we publish. It always goes to more than 1 million people on an average. Now everyone, as Peter said, we all sit at home, so our readers and traffic went up to the roof because people have time to read, actually. It's never been that easy. I'm in this business now for 21 years here to get people on the phone because everyone is bored, we sit at home. So let's take advantage of that,
Well, I can help coordinate the writing from everybody. I can help coordinate that and get it over to you, Jurgen, in the next day or two.
Okay.
And we'll stay in touch and continue to update you.
Yeah, and if you send me a copy of the Zoom, as I said, it would be great. It makes it easier. Then if you don't mind, I would also share it. Actually, I'm thinking about this. We're starting a new social media. You can look it up. It's already online. It's under buzz.travel, buzz.travel. And we're launching it officially on the 25th of March. And it has like virtual conference rooms. They're both public and private. And we're doing an hour session. So that video, if you're okay with this, maybe that's something we can play. I didn't even think about it in the beginning, but I'm sure people would appreciate it. So our audience we're expecting to have are again travel industry professionals. It's a social media kind of a mix between Facebook and LinkedIn, and it's all also linked to, and I'm not a technical guy, between Facebook and LinkedIn, so you can see it on all these platforms. Yeah, whatever we can do to help to spread the word what you're doing, and I think it's fantastic.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Greg and Ken, you guys have been quiet, and you guys are the geniuses on this.
I don't think we're not the media guys. I have a question actually for everybody. And Peter, you brought up some things that I thought were really interesting. And something I've been trying to wrap my head around is, I think all of us, here in Tennessee, this distiller, this community, recognize obviously there's a short-term, I think we saw as a short-term need for hand sanitizer and, disinfectant for spraying things down. And so we were able to, pivot and make that change, adapt, and fill that short-term need. But I think we need help in assessing what is that long-term need. Peter, you mentioned 2 weeks, maybe going through August. So I guess in the back of my mind, we can all, and obviously we're trying to just get something out there and take care of this immediate need, and certainly not looking at profiting off of it. It was just, how can we help out as quickly as we can and fill that short-term need? If it sounds like there's really a longer-term need, it's better for us to know that now, because I know, like, Keener and I have been racking our brains the last, multiple days here trying to figure out, quantities to make. Certainly we can ramp up in much larger quantities. But is the need going to be there in more than a week? Or, Purell and these other companies that make, hand sanitizer and disinfectants. I talked to MGP, which makes, alcohol in bulk quantities, more than any of us could ever make. Like you said, we're only producing an inch deep, mile wide.
Yeah.
And, they said they've got plenty of alcohol. They're sending it out in rail cars to, Purell and all these companies. So do you foresee that there truly is going to be an absolute shortage? Or is it just, we need to help fill this need temporarily until Purell and these others are able to crank up their operations?
So you're asking a $64 million question. And there's really two parts to that. One part of it, you
just give us the answer and that'll be all right.
Yeah, you can tell my age by saying the $64 million question, because that was from the 1960s. One, only God really knows how long it's going to last. I mean, it could be a very short period of time, of maybe 2 weeks or so. It could be, one of the issues we don't know is the relationship to heat to a virus. Now, the first medical stuff said, well, the summer should kind of get rid of it, until somebody pointed out that MERS, which, remember, the Middle Eastern form of this, comes from Saudi Arabia, which is not exactly a cold climate. So so the virus is also mutating and adapting. And therefore we have a problem that we just don't know. In 3 weeks, you could call me a liar or you could call me a genius. And there's no way of knowing how that's going to go. So that's the first part. The second part is, I'm really less interested, now I'm speaking personally, or what I'm telling my own students, I'm less interested in hand sanitizer than I am in wiping the country down. Because first of all, there's no better sanitizer than just simple soap in water on both sides of your hands, because most people only do the palm, but you have to do both sides of the hand. If you wet your hand, wash it with soap, just plain old soap, for 20 seconds on both sides, and then dry it with a paper towel, you're probably, for those moments at least, in good shape. What we don't have is ways of cleaning everything that's metal, stadiums, plastic. Think about the number of materials that are used in this country today where viruses can live on. Some say 3 days, some say 5 days, some say 5 hours. It's unclear. But every time you sneeze, remember, this virus is connected to the cold. And lots of people get colds all the time. So every time you sneeze or cough, in a sense, you're dealing with a mutated form of COVID-19. So the more we can, and that's going to be for a very long time, because even when this virus peaks and eventually goes away or goes back into, viruses never go away. First of all, every one of us has the 1918 Spanish flu inside of us. How do I know that? Because you were born, and we were all born with it on some level. But you have developed antibodies in the body that can handle that. Now, this is going to be another virus that's going to stay with us for a while. And I mean, while 10, 20, 30 years. But we will adapt. Our immune systems will adapt to that virus, and it'll just be like any of the other things that float in the air. So you'll be okay. But as a country, and really not a country, it's the world. Because unfortunately, and this is where tourism comes in, where people are interacting from one country to another. Right now, we've kind of gone back to borders. I don't know if those borders will stay or not. but as people travel from one country to the other, and I'm in the tourism business, but we bring germs with us. How many planes have to be washed down? How many seats have to be washed down? So if you could create different formats for sanitizing, not just of the hands, which are important. I'm not trying to say they're not, but first of all, it's more than just your hands. It's your forehead. This virus lives on your eyebrows. Nobody's cleaning their eyebrows. And yet, so there's a million types of things that will happen. I also want to point out, this is not going to be the last pandemic. We're going to have more pandemics because we have more people traveling. And it only takes one person sick in any part of the world to get somebody else sick, and all of a sudden you've got a system going throughout the entire world. So, one, I really want to applaud you. I can't give you a specific time. In 2 weeks we'll be done or not. Part of it is, when does the media move on to something else? When does the media get bored? And so those are all types of things that we have to think about. But no matter what, we're going to need this stuff as long as most of us are sitting on planet Earth. So there'll be two sides of it. Sometimes it'll be a popular top of the line. Everybody's talking about it. We needed this stuff 2 years ago, but we never would have had this meeting 2 years ago because it just wasn't, on everybody's plate. So there's two sides to that. But whatever you guys can contribute is really valuable. I guess the other way to think it is not, I don't expect you to save the whole world, but if you can save a few extra lives, good for you.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you. I think you're right. Obviously, we don't know the answer and how long the need is going to be there. I think what we need to do is reach out to companies like Purell and that industry and find out where they are in their progress to see, where is the need? Is it in hand sanitizer? I agree with you. I've been preaching this. Wash your hands. Everyone doesn't need to carry around hand sanitizer. Wash your hands.
Wash your hands.
And so, my thought is more in the disinfectant spray side of things. But I do think we need to reach out, get some communication going in industry to find out really where the need is so that we can pivot or adapt as best as we can to meet that need.
Have you spoken
We're
to
not
your...
shooting in the dark as to what we should be producing.
Yeah, I don't remember her name, but you have a state senator. She seems to be really like on top of things. I see her on television every once in a while. Have you spoken to your senators from Tennessee?
We've put we've put calls, we've put emails, we've put forth a big push. It's not been direct conversation, and that's even from our largest member of Jack Daniels down, so there's not been a lot of
Let me give you one other idea. The gentleman who is in charge of making a lot of the stuff for in the U.S. government, for the Department of Health, his name is Brett Gerard. You've probably seen him on television. He's the admiral. He's from Texas A&M. Okay. He's a really creative guy. It would be very helpful if he knew about some of the stuff you're doing. He's a physician. He's on the president's team. He's one of the key elements within the Department of Health. He might be a good person to know, in giving you guys some advice. If you could get your senators, it's hard to get his time right now. But if you could get his time, boy, he would be really a valuable person for you.
What's the best way you think to get that time?
Well, I could write to him.
If you would, that would be amazing. Because again, you're talking about, you got to understand the production the production capacity of our state. Remember this, and I might have said it earlier, but just let this sink in. 54% of all spirits that leave the U.S. come from our state.
Okay.
That's 49 states sharing the other 46%.
Wow.
I'm getting that our production is freaking huge.
Yeah.
I mean, we have the
You guys must
capability.
drink a lot.
Well,
Let's be honest about it. We have Jack Daniels in our state,
yeah.
and it's drunk around the world. So the rest of us in the state can be really proud of what we're doing, but talk about that inch deep, mile wide. We're microns deep and thousands of miles wide.
Hey, who let the production guy talk?
Oh yeah, sorry about that.
I'll tell you what, if you send
too
me,
honest.
I'll tell you, if you send me, Chris, or somebody, a letter of some form, I will send it on to Dr. Gerard.
Okay, great. We'll get on it. Thank you.
I mean,
Perfect. Can't ask for more than that.
yeah, I can always call his wife. We're good friends.
Well, yeah, that's a pretty good connection there, man. What are you talking about? Besides, the state of Texas owes us, remember?
We do owe you. You're right. Didn't you loan us Davy Crockett, I think?
Oh, that and the whole fact you're not Mexico, yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming over. We appreciate it. And you gave us one of our main #1 tourism attractions, the Alamo.
That's right. We love you guys, though. The real tea, baby.
Yeah.
Hey, really, the smartest guy on this call right now is Keener, and you haven't said a word, bud.
Maybe that's why he's so smart.
Yeah.
I'm afraid that, I'm not operating this phone right. I'm not as tech savvy as some of you guys.
Well, I'll tell you what, Peter, we will definitely follow up. We're going to follow up with two things is what I'm taking away from this immediately. We need 150 word blurb, if you will, to get to you guys for your various outlets regarding what we're doing over here in East Tennessee, and then what Old Dominic's doing in West Tennessee, and then what we're doing as a guild. That kind of summary in 150 words. But then, just as importantly, or more importantly, in my opinion, is to get Peter a letter regarding what we're doing and the actions we're taking here.
Yeah, Kelly has my email. So I don't know if you have it. If not, Chris,
Yeah, you can send it to me. I copied actually your in the email when I send it. But if you have my email, right, you can send it. I will
anything you send to Jürgen, I'll get, or vice versa.
Great, that's perfect. Yeah, and you said you would try to get that email that over to our famous friend in DC, correct?
Yeah, his name is Brett B. You look him up. He's on the. He's they have this team that comes on every day now for the news conferences. He's the guy in the naval admiral suit. Okay. What's his last name again? I'm sorry. Gerard. Giror. I think it's Gerard is how it's pronounced. Giror, right? Yeah, I think it's. I can tell you exactly. Oh, you're fine. Yeah. I just want to make sure we get it to the right. We can look them up. I want to make sure we're looking them up and get it to the. Yeah. Oh, if I get that, even if you misspell it, I'll change the spelling. Great. That sounds good. And if I don't, my wife will.
Yeah, it's Girroir.
Yeah,
okay. No, that's fantastic. So I think we had a good conversation. And I'm glad you made the time for everyone to come together on a Saturday. But what difference does it make these days? If it's Saturday, Sunday, Monday, it doesn't make any difference.
Well, next time I have a whiskey, I'll think of you guys.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Hey, I tell you what, both you guys send us, if you will, Kelly, get us everybody's physical address. And I know that we'll gladly all send you a little bit of we'll have to call it a gift because we're not technically allowed to ship direct ship, but we will have gifts for you. How about that?
Oh, that's very unnecessary, but very sweet.
If there's nothing else left, we can. Actually, I have a friend of mine. His name is Jack Daniels, and I'm not kidding. He lives in Bali, Indonesia. He runs one. He's an American. He runs one of the largest inbound tour operator in Bali. He's been there for 30, 40 years. I don't know if he's from Tennessee. But his name, as far as I know, is Jack Daniels. Everyone calls him